Most of us in Ithaca are on Cayuga Lake, part of the Haudenosaunee Confederacy. Before our evening begins, let us take a moment to consider this land, these resources, this space with which we have various levels of access and connection. A moment of gratitude for the land that feeds and homes us, and a moment of grief for the domination we perpetrated against it. A land that was not ours to take, a land that was stolen from indigenous hands. Take a moment to consider the land and the weight of your place here. A moment of gratitude to the water we use to sustain us, and a moment of grief for the ways we abuse it. With water, the basis of life. Water, we pollute. Take a moment to consider the water that surrounds us and sustains us. A moment of gratitude for the community we build. A moment of grief for those lives erased and denied. Indigenous lives lost and colonized. Black lives lost and enslaved. We are aware of what we stole, what we pollute, what we have lost. Take a moment to consider the path taken and a moment to dream of a new path.
Nicole LaFave, IC Alum 2007, is Director of Diversity and Alumni Programs at Cornell University. Nicole is a co-founding member of Black Lives Matter Ithaca and just completed a run for a Tompkins County legislature seat in 2021, where social justice was the cornerstone of her campaign. In addition to this work, she is also a member of the Board of Education for the Ithaca School District and has served for almost 6 years. She has an extensive experience working with the Ithaca community, uplifting marginalized voices and experiences, and is a mother of 3 amazing children. Without further ado, Nicole LaFave.
Good evening, everyone. I would like to thank Ithaca College and the MLK Celebration Committee for inviting me to be your keynote speaker this evening. It is truly an honor to be here, and thank you for the participants in the audience who showed up for my keynote address. When I was first asked to be the keynote speaker for this evening, I was apprehensive and skeptical. Not because I do not believe in the dream of the late Dr. King, or because I do not view it to be such an honor to speak at my alma mater in front of students, staff, faculty, and community members, but because I was struggling with the feeling of being dead on the inside and not feeling that I had anything inspiring to say. But then I realized that my soul being tapped and my heart being drained of the desire to give and receive was a symptom of the freedom and liberation that my very being craves every moment I look into the eyes of my children. Oppression and all of the isms function to kill our joy, to invalidate our truths, and to stall the growth of social movements. Hope, the ongoing struggle for equity and justice, and the urgency to speak to the importance of how we build a promised land brought me here this evening. The question of tonight is, are we living his dream? In order to answer this question authentically and genuinely, I would like to pose a few questions for you all to think about. Have we oversimplified his dream? Has his dream been confined to the white imagination's definition of liberty, freedom, and happiness? Can one truly dream if we find ourselves on the battlefield every moment of the day, fighting for the promotion we deserve at work, fighting to be seen and heard in the classroom, fighting intergenerational poverty, fighting for our children to have access to an equitable education, fighting against the nightmare that one of our children's deaths will be trending on the internet? And is dreaming a privilege when many of us are fighting to survive? There's a quote from the movie 12 Years a Slave that has stuck with me for some time. While Solomon Northup is on the slave ship and speaking with other Black men who have been captured like himself, he tells the group of men who are plotting to take over the slave ship, "I do not want to survive, I want to live." For the past 19 years that I've lived in Ithaca, I have wrestled with what it means to live and how I can live authentically in this community. I have found my source of joy and strength in community. But there is no joy without pain, and without struggle, there is no progress. Social movements have been birthed from struggle, from oppression, and marginalization. They are birthed from the mothers who want more for their children. They are birthed from the fearless souls who refuse to accept anything less than what they deserve and what they are owed. Social movements are birthed from those who seek to wander this earth with no fear. My life's work and purpose has stemmed from Harriet Tubman's resilience, from Nat Turner's rebellion, from Sojourner's truths, from Martha P. Johnson's activism, and from Dr. King's dream. I have sought to live a life with no fear, to advocate for social justice and racial justice, and to critique systems and structures that perpetuate inequities for BIPOC and queer communities. But this has been no easy feat. I have personally struggled with imposter syndrome, navigating through microaggressions and macroaggressions in the workplace, unpacking my own privileges, differentiating between intention and impact, learning the differences between working with community versus working for community, reconciling harm I have done onto others unconsciously, and navigating intergenerational differences. If we want to dismantle systemic and structural racism, we have to analyze our own proximity to privilege and power as we seek to define liberation and freedom. As a co-founding member of the Black Lives Matter chapter, I spent a lot of time grappling with the definitions and meanings of these terms. As a co-founding group, we struggle to define these terms as a collective without using heavy academic language that would isolate those who we sought to organize with and struggle, and whose voices we sought to amplify and uplift. As a collective, we found ourselves at a crossroads, largely because of class. There were many moments I felt that I had been transported in time to a debate between W.E.B. Du Bois and Booker T. Washington, or Malcolm X and Martin Luther King Jr. Everyone at our table had their eyes on the prize, but we saw it differently, we defined it differently, we communicated differently about the strategies and how to best achieve equity, justice, and Black self-determination based on our own life experiences. We were all seeking to find the promised land together. However, sometimes we differed on the best strategies of how to get us there. We differed on what we were willing to give up to get us there. And as a consequence, we sometimes forgot to look back to see the people we lost along the way. As a member of Black Lives Matter Ithaca, we spent a lot of time conceptualizing the Black experience, understanding our own economic class, where we were from within the African diaspora, and how that impacted how we were able to move forward as a group. We all believed it was critical to have a general body that informed and directed the work we did, and for us to operate within a structure that lacked hierarchy and weighed life experience as equally as one who has a master's or a PhD. We were intentional about not wanting to create any elements of the Talented Tents, that we were not allowing folks, that we were also allowing folks to build capacity in areas that they wanted to grow, areas where they felt their voices would be heard the loudest. As we thought about the focus areas that we wanted to organize around, we realized there was so much we wanted to do in areas such as economic stability, political education, food justice, reentry. But like any social movement, sometimes people get in their own way. Their egos block their vision. There's a misunderstanding of expectation, or there's a disagreement in philosophy. The beauty we found in those moments of strife and disagreement as a group, there was never a question of the love that we had for each other or the convictions and passions we brought to these meetings. And some of these conversations were difficult to have with my comrades, but we spoke to our individual blind spots and some of the isms that we were bringing into the space subconsciously. One of my favorite quotes is by James Baldwin. If I love you, I have to make you conscious of the things you do not see. In grassroots organizing, it is critical to hold your comrades, allies, community leaders, and elected officials accountable, to hold space for yourself, and also understand when you feel like you are compromising your own values to create space for actions and behaviors that violate your own boundaries as an organizer and as an individual. Grassroots organizing is as strong as the group's understanding of justice, equity, and people power. It is as powerful as the group's praxis and understanding of how to shift the paradigm of power. Black Lives Matter Ithaca was successful in supporting 2 young BIPOC adults who were victims of police brutality in our local community a few years ago. I recall getting a text from one of the individuals who said, "I need help and I don't know what to do." And from there, we as a collective sounded the alarms. We reached out to other grassroots groups, local not-for-profit organizations, and community leaders to wrap our arms around these young folks to support them in whatever way they needed and directed. We hosted listening sessions to seek a better understanding of what they needed. We asked them, what does justice look like for you? How can we best support you? It is so important during the ongoing struggle to check in and ask people what they need and not assume that we should speak on the behalf of other folks because we think we have their best interest in mind. When seeking justice, we sometimes must compartmentalize what we individually want versus what is best for the collective. We must check our intentions and reset our goals. We must take time to sit with our own trauma and understand our wounds are sometimes one because the pain is so numbing that our truths and narratives weave together like a Negro spiritual sang on the cotton fields. And then there are times when we must acknowledge when we have not taken the time to heal our own wounds and have conflated the pain with others with our own due to the lack of desire to do our own self-work. A pitfall in grassroots organizing sometimes is the tendency to only function as a collective when there is trauma that has been inflicted, when crisis is at its peak. I would urge any of you who are interested in grassroots organizing, who are engaged in grassroots organizing, to think strategically about how to function as a group outside of just responding to crises and chaos. There has to be time that you get together to celebrate the small wins, to rejoice being alive, to wink at the North Star for staring you straight, and to plan for the future. We need people in the streets to disrupt business every day, just as much as we need time together to tap into our radical imagination, to redesign and implement a new community order that will foster the freedom we all seek. If we are constantly staring into the eyes of the sun, we will never know how beautiful it feels to sit still and feel the sun's warmth as we shimmer in its divinity. These moments of rest provide us with the strength to capitalize on moments and light the torches of social movements. Let's take a moment to think about the birth of the Black Lives Matter movement. It started as a hashtag in response to the acquittal of George Zimmerman, who murdered Trayvon Martin as he walked home from the convenience store. People took to the streets to protest in response to the murder of Michael Brown. BIPOC communities across the country began to see they either all knew a Sean Bell, a Tamir Rice, a Sandra Bland, an Amadou Diallo, a Tony McDade. And as parents, we felt the pain, the sorrow, the horror of parenting while Black. The collective pain mobilized a movement that would soon ripple across the United States and beyond, that would yell from the mountaintops to protect, to defend, to humanize Black people and their rights to live in a world free of fear, free of brutality, free of the terror of the white sadistic psyche that seeks to eat, consume, and exploit the souls of Black bodies. The Black Lives Matter movement has been central to elevating King's message of crippling systems and structures that wreak havoc on the lives of Black folks, queer folks, and BIPOC communities. This movement centralized BIPOC queer voices and stories that too often are erased from Black history and disconnected from Black pain. Like any movement, it comes with its flaws and shortcomings. We must be careful as we become activists in faces of movements that we do not capitalize off the blood of the bodies of those taken from us. Because as Dr. King said, the evils of capitalism are as real as the evils of militarism and the evils of racism. And for this very reason, I personally believe Harriet Tubman would turn over in her grave if she knew her face would be plastered across currency, representing capitalism, the very ism that gave birth to slavery and supported the infancy of racism. Social movements must be grounded in intersectionality and seek to shed light on the ugly faces of oppression in all of its forms. I believe it is pertinent to understand the politics and philosophies of the comrades you are organizing with. If your vision and mission do not align, you will not only struggle to communicate with each other as a collective, but you will struggle to rally the troops behind a cause that has the potential to be life-changing for those that come after you. Your messaging will be inconsistent, and the people will not be able to see themselves in this new world you speak to cultivate in tandem with them. They will witness two truths standing side by side that they cannot reconcile. It is in these very moments that we find ourselves battling an internal struggle. I believe we witnessed this during Vice President Kamala Harris's bid for presidency. While many of us were championing and rooting for Vice President Harris, when we took a deep dive into her record, we realized a disconnect between her words and actions while she was an attorney general in California. And her campaign team struggled to rectify her past and formulate a campaign identity that aligned with the progressive campaign she was running. What I learned from her election bid is that we can celebrate history being made by seeing a woman of color as a vice president, while also questioning and taking a deeper dive into her past actions and records that have been marginalizing and oppressing in practice. Working within systems, as Kamala Harris has done for most of her career, is a precarious place to find oneself if you believe in systemic and structural change, and you're also tasked with upholding the status quo as a district attorney. We must continue to hold our elected officials accountable. However, we must be fair in applying this analysis to all elected officials, not just women of color who fall short from grace. Dr. King and Malcolm X have been painted in history as having opposing views of how to achieve liberation for Black folks. I would argue that each were willing to give up something different in order to achieve freedom and liberation. I believe King and Malcolm X were operating from different definitions of freedom and liberation based on their life experiences. King, a man of faith, sought to believe in the hearts of his fellow Christian community and relied on their interpretation of the good word to help them see the humanity of Black folks. Malcolm X was unwilling to wait for white folks to have their epiphany moment and instead desired to create an existence for Black folks that did not require the validation of the white psyche or their systems. Malcolm X was willing to give up living in mainstream America in order to achieve Black self-determination and a land created for and by Black people. King, on the other hand, was willing to diversify the movement by appealing to a larger audience that would showcase to whites that they had something to gain from the liberation of Black people. We can see a parallel discourse today in how activists, community leaders, and government officials differ on how to achieve justice, equity, and freedom for BIPOC communities. Grassroots organizations believe in toppling the system and creating a new world order that centers the most marginalized. More establishment organizations and moderates are focused on expanding the life expectancy of democracy and reforming the society we live in. But what is reform? Is reform a catalyst to creating a society in which I live without fear of an untimely death of my young Black children? Will reimagining public safety lengthen the life expectancy of Black women, men, children, trans, and non-binary folks? As we think about Dr. King's dream, was he asking for reform or revolution? In my opinion, there can be no freedom without revolution. Last spring, you probably saw my face plastered around the community as I ran for Tompkins County Legislature. It was a hard and easy decision to make. It was an easy decision to make because I am a public servant at heart and was asked by my community to run. It was an easy decision to make because I feel that I'm living my own truth when I'm supporting others and finding their own and creating a community where more than just a few of us are surviving. It was a hard decision to make because I do not identify with the title of a politician. I have no desire to play the games that are involved. I do not possess the opportunistic nature of these roles that can sometimes consume you with greed and power. I would rather see the impact, the tangible changes in my community. And I want people to know that I'm a person of my word. Grassroots organizing and community building is grounded in communal trust. And I don't trust the systems that were created with the intention, that were not created with the intention of protecting me or anyone who looks like me. Lastly, the decision was hard because I have a strained relationship with democracy and electoral politics. I struggle to believe we live in a true democracy. I struggle to believe that policies and legislation will provide me with the justice and freedom I am owed. I struggle with some of the narrowing differences I see between the political parties when it comes to their relationship to capitalism and their inability to connect with the people they represent. And most importantly, democracy is intrinsically tied to capitalism, which diminishes my faith in a system that can only function when a small percentage of its people are thriving. I want to read an excerpt from Dr. King's letter in a Birmingham jail. Quote, "First, I must confess that over the last few years, I have been gravely disappointed with the white moderate. I have almost reached the regrettable conclusion that the Negro's great stumbling block in the stride toward freedom is not the white citizens counselor or the Ku Klux Klaner, but the white moderate who is more devoted to order than to justice, who prefers a negative space, which is the absence of tension, to a positive peace, which is the presence of justice, who constantly says, I agree with you and the goals you seek, but I can't agree with your method of direct action, who paternalistically feels that he can set the timetable for another man's freedom, who lives by the myth of time, and who constantly advises the Negro to wait until a more convenient season. Shallow understanding from people of goodwill is more frustrating than the absolute misunderstanding from people of ill will. Lukewarm acceptance is much more bewildering than outright rejection." End quote. I feel this quote in my soul and my whole being when I think of this beautiful community we live in. There is so much fire, passion, and desire to do something, to speak out against inequities, to attend a rally, to march during a protest, to knit a pink pussy hat in solidarity. In the waters of Ithaca, I fear there is a mineral of faux progressivism, where we will acknowledge the disparities, inequities, and injustices, but we will not necessarily invest in the overhaul of the current systems that exist, because that means you too would have to give something up. I will never forget the summer I was sitting in my friend's kitchen when someone knocked on her door. She called for me to join her at the door. The faces of the couple turned bright red as soon as I showed up, though I had no knowledge of what was on the clipboard, which was in their hands. My friend shared with me that they were looking for signatures to block a mixed income project, which is now where the old PNC used to be. Before I could ask a question, they reassured me of their commitment to housing for all, but they just didn't think it was the right location for this development. And because I was feeling saucy that summer evening, I decided to play the fool and ask them of their concerns for this development, since they believed in the city's vision to create more affordable housing. I will share with you some of the reasons they gave me. I will not be able to see the sunset from my porch because the building will be too tall. Those people will be parking in front of my house. The blueprint doesn't show enough space for patio furniture. The development will not have enough parking spaces for everyone who has more than one car. There's not enough greenery in this blueprint. I share these responses with you today because the same couple has a Black Lives Matter sign in their yard. This same couple came to the Women's March. This same couple probably has an End White Silence yard sign. Yet they are so disconnected from the economic struggles of low income and poor folks that they're more concerned about the sunset than families having quality housing and living in walking distance to elementary school. They are more concerned with upholding their luxuries than ending the systemic oppression of BIPOC and low income folks. The white moderate would rather spend time telling me about the good cops than to talk about the history of policing and the terroristic nature of policing in this country. They would rather us schedule a convenient time to host a protest that did not interfere with their happy hour than to understand dismantling capitalism disrupts the nucleus of oppression of the poor and working class. We cannot barter freedom. We cannot wait any longer because some of us are on borrowed time. Because cancer, diabetes, heart disease, high blood pressure, maternal mortality, police brutality, sex trafficking, and other social ills and disparities plague our community. The urgency of now has never rang truer. The white moderate must understand how their complicit behavior upholds the status quo, and they must ask themselves what they are willing to give up in order to achieve liberation and freedom for all. They must be willing to interrupt the corporate workspace to acknowledge that time and space must be carved out for BIPOC and queer employees to mourn and experience the stages of grief when their life cycle of oppression is played out on CNN for days at a time. The white moderate must understand that they cannot police our rage, our anger, our impatience with a system that continues to take on new names and new faces under the guise of reform. To my white allies, accomplices, supporters of the struggle, I need you to unpack your fragility. There is too much work to be done in our fight for freedom for BIPOC organizers. There's too much work to be done in our fight for freedom for BIPOC organizers to have to prioritize your emotions and feelings and to police our own for your comfort. We need you to lean into discomfort. Take some time to understand that many BIPOC women and queer folks navigate in a state of discomfort around the clock and have learned to compartmentalize for survival. Exhibit radical compassion whenever you can. To the many folks who do not fit into the Black and white binary, your voices, your stories, your narratives, and the nuances that are intertwined are needed in order to understand race on a deeper level as a social construct that we all live in, but we may experience differently. If we do not create spaces to hear experiences and perspectives from those of other ethnic diasporas, we are missing out on the opportunity to expand our praxis, to exercise radical compassion, to unpack privileges and biases, and to strengthen our collective voice and people power. Social movements must understand how those who live in between the margins and experience oppression are missing from the grassroots movements because their experiences are not mirrored in the larger agenda. As organizers, we are not taking enough time to ask who is not at the table and why. Dr. King's vision of unity was one that called for people to see the humanity of thy neighbor, to advocate for the basic human rights of all, and to denounce any form of destruction that wreak havoc on the social agency and livelihood of all people, but with a focus on marginalized communities. In short, we are not living the dream of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. We are not living his dream because his dream has evolved to keep up with the evolution of the oppression, marginalization, and structural racism that exists. We must decide what our individual and collective responsibilities are to upsetting the status quo, what we each have to give up in order to reset the social order of justice. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It was amazing. For those of you, oh, cool. I don't know if you all know, but there's a new hand function where you can see claps and hearts and sort of things, and that's really cool. So, if you have a question for Nicole, I strongly encourage you to put it in the chat so that we can have a conversation around the issues that she's brought up. And she can lend her perspective to things that you might be thinking about when it comes to organizing, when it comes to making community. And I'll give you a minute to type it out, but it would be really great. You can also come on video and ask if you would like, if you feel comfortable unmuting, and just raise your hand and we'll let you unmute.
I'll break the ice. Hi, I'm Angelica. For those that may not know me yet, I'm the new director for the Center for Ideas. Good job to the committee for putting this together, and it's nice to see you, Nicole. My first question to you is, I know you're very active in the community, and you also posed a question to us, but what do you see yourself doing moving forward? So I know you're on the board, and you've ran for some positions locally, and you're in a position in diversity work with alumni. I know, baby, hold on. What do you see yourself organizing or leading next in your endeavors?
I would say that I said yes to this opportunity because I needed my heart to be pumped with life again. After running for the Tompkins County Legislature, I felt emotionally drained, not from the loss, but from how much I had to give and how much I had to give up in order to put myself out there. I think I struggle with working in higher education because there are many paradoxes and hypocrisies that exist. And I know at my heart, I'm not a higher education professional, and I seek more joy in doing community work. So I hope to do more community work, and I'm not sure if that will be in the not-for-profit space, because the not-for-profit industry has its own issues. However, I seek to do work that fills my love tank, that feels good, leaving my kids for 40 hours a week. I want to make a difference, and I also want to be real with myself. And I know that I personally struggle when I'm doing work that doesn't align with my own personal values and mission. So I think that I'm going to take some time to think about where I can have the greatest impact, how I want to grow, while also seeking time to rejuvenate, because it's exhausting being in the space of diversity, equity, and inclusion. As you know, Angelica and other folks that I see on here that I know that are also in the same space. And I think it's really healthy to be able to take a step back and reevaluate where you are, because it's really hard to show up for other people if you're not showing up for yourself, if you're not showing up for your kids. And especially working in the student space, which you've worked in, Angelica, I don't think we're doing the best to model good behavior when we're not taking care of ourselves. So I think that I need to spend some time engaging in self-care and doing my own self-work. I think I love doing public servant work because that gives me the opportunity from deflecting and doing my own self-work. And I feel stronger advocating for others and actually spending that time and energy pumping back into me. So I'm hoping that this speech will give me some time after I pass out from an anxiety attack when I close the Zoom to think about what I'm going to do next. And thank you for the ice.
No problem. Thank you. And we really appreciate you being here today. Thank you for sharing your experience. Thank you for being honest about self-care. I think you're right. Like when we're in these positions, we do so much and give out, and sometimes we forget that we're also someone that we need to take care of. So I definitely feel you, but thank you so much.
I would also add for the students and community members and staff and faculty that might be on the call that it's a really important lesson to learn to say no, and also to say no and not feel that you have to offer a reason why. Sometimes, most of the times, no is enough. And I don't think, especially in the community organizing space, that we say no enough. I know I'll make I statements. I do not say no enough. And I think by saying no, we put faith that other people will raise their hands and that they will build capacity to have some sense of agency to put themselves out there. Because I don't need to be on every panel. I could be watching some silly show right now and someone else could be sharing their experiences. I'm happy to be here, but I also know that I can sit my butt down and do something else, but that also means that I have to have faith that someone else is also going to step up to the plate. So that's, again, some of my own self-work that I need to do. No one else has questions?
I have a question. I was wondering, thank you, first of all, thank you, period. But thank you also for being so authentic in what you're bringing to us tonight. I think it split me open a little bit as well. And I was wondering if you could share a little bit about what that experience of being in a political realm, like in a political realm as somebody who had not imagined themselves, like maybe entering into like that space. What did you see behind the curtain? And if you could offer a little bit of any surprises, that experiences that you had while you were running or a candidate.
Sure. I struggle with being too honest, so I'm trying to filter my brain right now. And my head wrap is also on too tight, so my blood circulation's a little low. I would say a surprise was not having the support that I thought was going to be there. So having folks that asked me to run, while also saying that we needed more women of color to be in this space, not being able to vocalize that support, or some of the people that I've showed up for consistently, repeatedly, even though they haven't been the most authentic and genuine, didn't return that same favor. But my grandma is a big believer in, we don't do things and talk about it. So I think I struggled personally with seeing how opportunistic people can be at times. And I think that I'm just personally naive and like to see the good in everyone. And I also want people to make the right decision, even if they'll get their hands chopped off. And I think that's just because I am that person who will do what is right. And I have had my hands chopped off, and I would do it again because that is what feels true to me. I think I struggled with, and I mentioned this in my speech, but the differences in ideologies when it comes to justice and equality for Black and Brown people, and how we have some folks who would rather take a more conservative approach because they're scared of what lies beyond. So I think of Harriet Tubman, and she had to shoot people when she went up north. It was, you're coming with me or I'm going to have to kill you. I don't want to, but the lack of radical imagination to think that there's a new way to do things, and not understanding or seeing how, when we stay static and consistent with the status quo, we are not breaking any chains at all. We're doing what is expected of us because we're trained by fear. And I will say that some of us don't have anything to give up. And I acknowledge that. And I also acknowledge that there are Black people that are in middle class or upper middle class spaces, and they also walk this tricky line. But I think those of us who are working class or who live underneath the poverty line look up to those who are in these upper class positions, hoping that class will not continue to divide us, because we know at the end of the day, race in many situations trumps class. So I think my heart was broken a little bit, and why I've just been really quiet on social media altogether. And again, it's not the loss, it's people not following their heart and sticking more with the gatekeepership, which tends to happen in our local community.
Hello, I just want to say this is, you're speaking so frankly and beautifully to everything. Every sentiment is really striking, and it's filling the void that's been in me, and wondering why there's so much silence in our community. I've been working on the restorative justice and restorative practices, information sharing, and trying to rally really youth voices to get involved, but just even adults in the library and all of the gatekeeping that I have experienced in the last few months has been, I can't even, there's no words to describe what I now am so much more aware of. And I have so much faith in this community like you do. So I just wonder if there's any of that you could speak to, as far as the practices and the policies changing in the state and locally. And I'm excited for Mona to be in the new position she's in. Like, that could the best New Year's for me present that we could get was that, or that's just how I feel. So I do feel hopeful. But I just wonder if there's any of that you're interested in speaking on.
I would say, because you brought up Mona, I'm now thinking about the Reimagining Public Safety proposal. I'm curious to see where it goes. I think reimagining is the most striking word in the title. And I'm curious to know what our young people think about this proposal, because I believe that it will have a large impact on them. As I think about my young sons my daughter who will be driving in the next few years, and what safety will look like for her. I think there is silence within the community, because besides living in a pandemic, I think some of the folks that tend to be the encouraging ones are now filled with the same disbelief and unable to be that source of hope because they have had their souls taken away from them in some way. They have no light. And when you have nothing, it's really hard to give to others. So I think the lights are just kind of going out everywhere. And we have to really think about how we create more decentralized movements where we're not looking for this one person to be inspired. We're not looking for a Martin Luther King or a Malcolm X. Like, we together can pull our voices together to create something collective. And it doesn't have to be this great, strong voice that inspires everyone. Like, that is great. However, when those folks tend to pass on, the movement tends to die with them because people didn't necessarily know how to connect to the movement itself and just to that person. So I think the more that people see themselves in this community connected to what exactly is happening, and they're not on their own personal hills or in their house, the more that will be impacted with, well, the more we'll be affected by what is actually happening. But if we're not sharing space with each other, if we're not sharing stories and we don't know what is happening in each other's lives, it's so easy to be cut off, especially in a remote virtual world. And I am privileged that I work remotely because I work at Cornell, but there are many of us that just have been completely disconnected. And when you're disconnected, you're kind of like a mummy. You're just walking with no vision. And I personally think that right now I'm lacking vision. And in a way, I'm content with that because there aren't many people looking to me to guide them somewhere. And that has provided me with time and space to sit still with my thoughts. And sometimes I just need to sit. And I think what you can do is you can think about the people that you personally work with who may be interested in equity and justice and may not necessarily have the language, because folks get stuck on feeling that they need to have the buzzwords to be able to actualize any change. I think you can think about the people within your organization that have the power to shift things and begin to bring things into them for them to look at, to ask them questions about. And it sucks managing up, but I realize that is part of the process, and many managers fail up. And you find yourself within an organization where there is no leadership. However, you care so deeply. And I don't believe in telling people that they should care less. So I think you have to strike that balance in terms of finding people that you can build community with and make a larger impact.
I don't manage an organization. I'm really starting, or I started like a volunteer-led initiative, and it's based on the Erie County Restorative Justice Coalition. And I can't tell you, it was started in 2013, and it's, really youth led. So I'm looking and hoping that we can connect more youth in this community who feel just a little bit more inspired than we do, just a little bit more full of energy than we have. And I know they're there. I mean, I've been like talking to the friends I have who have young children, but, not too young, but too young. And, they're ready for this. And when I've approached adults in the community and they say the youth aren't ready, I think, all right, now I know I got a lot more still to do, but I know they're here. And I just want you to know that that's what I'm working on. And I'd love more input from others on it with youth they know who are interested.
Thank you, Michelle.
Go for it, babe.
Hi, Nicole. This is Ben, and I have a question for you. I was really thinking in your talk about this idea of silence and implicit bias as it sort of germinates and lives in spaces, and you have occupied spaces in the community and in higher ed, and have developed as a community organizer strategies and methods for kind of rooting or bringing error to those silences or biases that folks can't see. So I was curious about ways that you see or methods that you use for bringing those silences up and into space so that they can be talked about, and be that in the space of higher ed or in the community. I'm just curious about kind of methods that you see serving the community or particular professional spaces.
I would say that I think the strategy is going to be different based on the individual and their own identities. So if hypothetically this was someone who was trans in a very white male cisgendered space, I would not advocate for this person to disrupt that space without thinking about their own personal safety and who they have in their corner or in their workspace who can support them in a healthy way. I think, again, it's important thinking to know who you work with. And I think that there are ways to do that that are genuine. Whether it's you walking through a hall at Cornell with a colleague and noticing that everyone on the wall is white, whether it's thinking about the Ithaca Voice and the past several community heroes have all been white, and there are plenty of people of color that are doing great work in this community. So I think it's realizing what you're seeing, connecting with other folks to ask them if they're not seeing it, and then thinking about how can we correct the system? Who are the people who are in the right places to be able to make that change? I know for me personally, I usually don't think about the consequences and I just go head in to speak to what I see. If I'm speaking because I've seen someone else that has been impacted, I personally like to check in with the person first to say, I saw this happen. I'm sorry I didn't speak up. I should have. I also want to make sure that that is what you want and I'm not doing something that is not safe for you. But I think if it's a systemic or a structural thing, whether you're sitting on an interview committee and you notice someone continues to say this person isn't the right fit, it's thinking about who's that person's boss. Are there trainings that you can suggest that the whole team takes so that this one person doesn't feel pointed to and it's everyone should have this? Or it's you thinking about the relationship that you have with your manager or your boss to say, this is the kind of workspace that I need to work in for me to feel safe, healthy, and growing. And these are the changes that need to take place. But again, I think it's really important to think about the identities of that individual and what their proximity to power is and what the consequences can be. So sometimes it's talking to someone who has more privileges than you, who will be able to make those changes a lot swifter.
Thanks, Nicole.
Thanks, Ben.
In the chat is a question. It says, can you speak to how you got started? What advice do you have for students who may want to start organizing but don't know where to begin?
So I think I would say, I would want to know more if this student is thinking about organizing in their own personal community versus their campus community. So what is your relationship to, if it's Ithaca and you're not from here, what is your relationship with Ithaca, with the people here? How are you building mutually reciprocal relationships with the folks that you want to work with in the community so that you're not creating a town gown relationship where you feel that you're going into the community with all of the ideas? So it's being honest with yourself and real about what your intentions are and what your goals are. How is whoever you're going to work with going to benefit from this relationship? What are you seeking to get from this relationship? Thinking about all of the isms, the social issues that you're interested in, that you want to learn more about. And even digging deeper and thinking about the ones that make you a little uncomfortable. I think it's easier to talk about class or to talk about gender versus to talk about race or sexuality. So I think pushing oneself into discomfort, and also being real about what you want to gain from these experiences. So I would say start with that self-work. What do I want to do? What do I feel connected to? What are my goals? How am I giving back? What am I receiving? What personally fills my love tank? What are my strengths? What are the areas that I want to grow? And how can I tap into an opportunity that is going to nurture my strengths while also help me grow in a space? But again, I think it's really important to think about what spaces you want to do this in.
Thank you.